It's time for the Bleed Los Podcast with your hosts, Alonso and Juan, Alicia Del Valle, and the babyface gimmick in the sky, Roger.
BetOnline is your number one source for all your summer sports this season, from MLB, golf, NBA, and NHL playoff stats. All the latest stats, news, and scores available to follow your favorite teams. Get the latest odds and lines, including the latest team matchups, player props, and odds on just about every sport out there. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. BetOnline, where the game starts.
And we are back with another episode of the Bleed Los Podcast, weekly rewind edition, a little bit later than usual. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff to recap. The Dodgers did not have the best homestand, and me and fellow Dodgers beat writer Mike Salas are going to get all into the nitty gritty of it. We are going to talk over kind of our thoughts and highlights of the Padres series, the National Series, and then ending on the Mets, and then kind of previewing their upcoming 9-game road trip starting in DC. I'm not my normal setup. I am traveling with the team now. I am with them in DC. I will be covering the team the next 3 days. So be sure to subscribe to the channel. Follow us on social media at Dodgers Beat, at Bleed Los Podcast. We're going to be having a lot of content come out this week. And then just hit the bell notification. Make sure you're up to date whenever we're going to go live, upload any new videos, player interviews, you know it. But Mike, honestly, it's good to have you on, get some new perspective on the weekly rewind. You posted your first recap article the other day for the Mets series, but let's go a little bit back. Let's go to that Padres series. What were your takeaways kind of early on for this homestand? Did you think once they lost 2 out of 3 in the way they lost it, did you think it was kind of going to go throughout the entire 9-game set?
I didn't think I was going to go through the whole 9-game set. I was a little disappointed in the team and the way that they played. Didn't seem like they had the spark or the fire that they've had, in the beginning of the season. The hitting wasn't good at all. Pitchers didn't really get any run support, but the pitching wasn't all that great either in regards to the starting pitching, and especially the bullpen. The bullpen struggled pretty heavily in the Padres game, and the Padres came to the stadium and they wanted to play ball, and they showed it, and they ended up taking the series from them.
Yeah, I think the big thing a lot of Dodger fans and just fans in general, I know we like to, shit on the Padres, but I said it before the season started. I really like their offense. I like the guys that they have 1 through 9. Jackson Merrill, shortstop turned center fielder. He looks like legit. Like, he looks like he will hit well at this level, and he's been a catalyst to their offense. And they haven't even gotten some guys going, like Fernando Tatis Jr. He still isn't, full MVP ready. I assume he will get back to that level. I know we want to make jokes about, the steroid or the cream or whatever he was doing in the offseason, but that guy is a flat out ball player. And Xander Bogaerts, a guy who they signed to a big term deal, hasn't really hit a lick over there in San Diego, and they are still putting up runs. Their biggest question mark to me, and it still is that pitching rotation, where we've seen some, highlights with Michael King. He had a really good start against the Brewers last week. Yu Darvish going on the IL is a big question mark for them. But I like the, acquisition of Dylan Cease and everything they did in the offseason, where I think they can keep, tail with the Dodgers, with the Diamondbacks, with the Giants. It's not going to be a cakewalk to the division that a lot of people thought it was going to be, which is surprising because if you see the offseason that we had and we see the holes that we still have, it's not fair to say that the Dodgers are going to 100% win the division, even though I still expect them to kind of be up in that spot. But the Padres are going to be a thorn in their bush.
To be honest, seeing them play in spring training with all the new acquisitions, that the team's got, they got to build their synergy, and that's going to take some time. They're going to lose some games. I mean, when you look back on it, since like 2017, the Dodgers really haven't played all that great in April anyways.
Yeah.
So this isn't really a big surprise, or should be like a big surprise, to the fans and to everybody who likes to watch the Dodgers play. Uh, I think the big thing about it is with all these Yamamoto, Otani, Teoscar, all these signings that we had in the off seasons with Paxton also. It's like the expectations maybe could have been a little too high for the team.
Mhm.
Otani's just got back from getting his elbow worked on. We don't know how well he was going to hit. He could have been a flop. His elbow could have been pretty kind of messed up and might not have reacted as well. Coming into the new season, and he could not be hitting as well as he is. We're lucky that he's doing that. Yamamoto needs to adjust a little bit more. I think he's almost there. I think he's about another month or two. The fans are going to see the Yamamoto that I've seen, for the past year and a half since I've been watching him play. Paxton, I think, is going to be doing pretty well. One thing that I do kind of miss and kind of bummed out that they didn't do was sign Imanaga. I think that would have been a good pickup, for the Dodgers for that. But as far as the Padres, coming in, Padres are going to come into the season, into every game, whether it's at Dodger Stadium or it's down in playing in San Diego. They're going to come out and play.
Yeah.
And they've already made that statement. They made that statement last year. They're going to play hard and they're going to play to win every single game that they're going to be when they play the Dodgers because they have something to prove. When you're up against a team like that, you got to be willing and able to play and play hard for 9 innings.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And you bring up the guy I wanna pivot to because Mike, you're my guy. Whenever I hear Yamamoto and I want to get some insight on him, I'm looking to you because all off season you were commenting, on social medias, even on our own page, preaching for this guy. And a lot of Dodger fans, they are kind of upset that they haven't seen, your ideal version of Yamamoto. And
Mhm.
my biggest takeaway is I think he's going to be fine. I 100% agree with you. I explained saying, I don't think it's fair to say for him to come into the league and then be flat out sub 2 ERA right off the bat. I
No.
I already assumed that there was going to be some growth with it. He's super young. He's transitioning from a totally different league. We see two starts. And the one I had the biggest gripe for, and I don't know if it's a Yamamoto thing. I don't know if it's a Dodgers pitching philosophy thing. And I put a post out on social media on X, pretty much stating, I expect this guy to go at least 6 innings, especially if, he is cruising or is the Dodgers need innings from their starting rotation. And I think that's the biggest issue that the team is facing this year. It's not the runners in scoring position. It's not the bullpen, it's the starting pitching's lack in ability to go deep into a games. And I think, that Padres game was a big thing reason why, because then you pull Yamamoto in after 5 innings, and then the bullpen, is continue to be overworked, and they end up blowing that game. And that
Mhm.
was the game that kind of would have made them at least win that series because they won the day after. So, and then with the Mets series as well, he made a start there. He had a couple of mistakes, but I still look at that Padres game that Yamamoto started that was an issue. And do you kind of want the Dodgers to slow progress him and the rotation, or do you kind of want them to say, "Hey, this guy's going to earn it. The only way he's going to get better is if he's out there."
I'd like to see Yamamoto go at least 7 to 8 innings every start. He's when he was pitching in Japan, he went 9 innings. Almost every time that he pitched. The Dodgers organization has their rotation, what they have, and they pull their pitchers. They do the same thing in the minor leagues. None of the minor league pitchers are pitching more than 4 innings, sometimes 3 innings. And then the next guy's coming up and then he's pitching 2 innings. So I don't know if it's just the philosophy of the Dodgers organization and what they have for that, but I think if Yamamoto actually got to pitch for at least 8 innings like Glasnow did, you probably see a different pitcher also. One concern that I have for him is his relationship with the catcher. You know, his stuff as far as his slider, his curveball, all of his other pitches that he has, that are coming in, they're fine. The only thing that he's having a problem with is his fastball. Is Will Smith or is um, Austin Barnes, got their placement of their glove in the right position of where he really wants it? I think there's a little bit of a disconnect, in regards to Yamamoto may want to put it down into the bottom left corner, in the upper right corner, on the sides that are in there, and the positioning that Will Smith has and the positioning that Barnes may have, maybe that target isn't set to where he really wants there. So I think there's a little bit of a communication breakdown, because when I've seen him pitch in Japan, online, I didn't see him in person. You know, his catcher was set up where he wanted that ball to go, and that's where the ball went. You know, Yamamoto seems to like where Smith has got his mitt placed. It seems like he's missing to the right or missing to the left just a little bit. So they need to make a little bit of an adjustment, in my opinion. I think once they get that communication, that's why I'm saying, the next month or two, I don't think anybody's going to be talking about Yamamoto anymore, because
I,
once they get that, that communication down, that he is my catcher. Will Smith is my catcher now, and now I feel comfortable with him. He knows how I'm pitching. He knows how to call the game, and we're on the same page. So I think that's going to be coming soon.
yeah, I actually do agree with you on that because, you know, I played catcher pretty much my entire life all the way up until
Me too.
college. And I think that's part of the, everyone wants to see this stuff on paper. Like, all right, this is what he throws on paper. This is what he should do. Like they did the advanced, projections. And the one thing you can't predict is, the mental side and the relationships in baseball. And there's
Hmm.
nothing bigger than a pitcher and a catcher. I know my entire life, whether it's high school, middle school, and then college, or even playing now, it's like if you don't have a feel or a rhythm with your pitcher or your pitching staff, you can get, there can be miscommunication. And then you add the language barrier in there as well. It probably is a learning curve for Smith and Barnes as well. So I do think that makes sense because when I look at Fangraphs, Yamamoto's command was an 80 grade, and he hasn't even that was before he even threw a pitch in the majors. That's like
Right.
the highest you can get in
Hmm.
Fangraphs rankings. If 80 is perfect, so that means if he's trying to Greg Maddux dot in corners with a 95, 96 mile per hour fastball, the only reason that, maybe the catcher is not placing it in the right spot that he wants and the hitters are picking up on that. That's going to be something that I think is going to be months or weeks down the line where the only way they learn or get better is
His
game after
repetition.
game, start after start,
Hmm.
bullpen after bullpen, like, and then communication. And I think, I want him to be great in April or May, but I think as long as they get it corrected by, September, October, then we won't care. And I think Austin Barnes is extremely underrated. Will Smith is really
Yep.
underrated defensively as well. They do have their woes, not being able to throw out the highest amount of, base stealers. But I still think, there's no one better you would want behind the plate calling a game right there. The Dodgers historically have been one of the best pitching and catching organizations in baseball, and that's just not recent. That's in their entire history.
Right. It's just, if Smith sees, that Yamamoto is throwing his fastball and leaving it a little bit high, you know, and he's getting to know and recognize that, then he knows that, oh yeah, I'm gonna have to pace my glove to the left a little bit more and put my target out here so he can come and the ball's gonna come and hit me there. And
Yeah.
that way it's gonna go into that corner where I really want it and where I know he really wants the ball to go. So he doesn't know his pitches all that well right now. So like I said, once they get that down, Will Smith will be able to recognize he's missing high, he's missing low. I'm going to have to cut here. I'm going to have to come over here. I'm going to have to go over and do there a little bit more. So it's just the adjustment part. Like I said, once they get that down and that figured out, it's over.
Yeah. Well, pivoting away from Yamamoto and everything that went down that Padres series, now we got to take a look at this young veteran mix of the Washington Nationals. They come into, Dodger Stadium. They take 2 out of 3. They shut out the Dodgers in game 3. What are your big takeaways from that series or just the Nationals in general, where I think I said to Roger off air, I said, this team is a little bit better than people want to give credit for. But then again, we are the Dodgers. We are the $350 million machine. We should be taking this series 10 times out of 10. What are your takeaways from the series loss to them?
I would kind of agree with that. I wouldn't say 10 times out of 10. I would say more like 7 out of 10, because baseball is baseball. You never know what's going to happen, in regards to that. And the Dodgers historically, they've had problems with the Nationals. It's not really uncommon for them to lose, against a team, since what, 2016, 17. We're sitting there. Why are the Dodgers losing to a last place team, or a team that's not going to make to the playoffs? And then they play hard against the better teams. So I think they just take it for granted. Not saying that that's what they did. With the Nationals, this year. And again, it's just I can't explain it. It's really hard to really grasp on what's happening. Is it Dave Roberts not managing correctly? Is he not motivating? Is he not looking at things and like going, hey man, Gavin, you really need to step up today. We really need you on, getting a hit today. Hey, Chris Taylor, we really need you to get a hit today. Is he really saying that to them? Is he motivating those players to actually, put some fire into them to where they're going to see and prove, that they should be a part of this team? So I think that's a little bit of a part of it also. Um, in my opinion, kind of, Dave Roberts is everybody says he's the player's coach. Well, sometimes you can't be the player's coach. You got to be the coach and actually lay the law down and say, hey, man, you need to step your game up a little bit today.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I like Dave Roberts and I like everything the coaching staff is doing, but there are some holes in the Dodgers offense right now, and
Hmm.
some of these guys really need to get it going. I don't we discussed it on the live last week. I don't know how much leash you can give a Chris Taylor, a Gavin Lux, and now as more and more days go by, we're starting to get a little bit more clarity where, the Dodgers are kind of their idea with Lux is, hey, let's get him to like 120-ish at bats, and then we'll reevaluate things. That gives them to around almost the All-Star break at that point. So I think the Dodgers, it kind of a callback to what Juan said last week's live, is they're more business casual. They will treat each game with the same, mentality, because they're looking at the longer view, the 162 game view. And to the fan, that's nerve wracking, because to the fan, we pay money to go to these games. We pay to travel with the team. We pay, for the gear and the merchandise. So pretty much our financial investment is to each and every single game that we're attending, watching, or whatever. So I understand both sides. I think it is frustrating. I think you're well within your right to be frustrated at the players and frustrated at the team for
Hmm.
losing a series like this. I do agree with the mindset that the Dodgers place, because they've had that same mindset since 2013 or 2014, and they've gotten to the playoffs every single year. And no other team in baseball, not many other teams in sports in general, can say that. The amount of consistency they have in terms of making the postseason rivals like the New England Patriots in terms of consistency. So I think there's wins to both sides. There are arguments to both sides. Um, and then it's really just going to come down to October. And we all know that. Everybody knows that. But like I said, I think the Nationals are a little bit better than what a lot of people want to give them credit for. I
Would
really
agree.
think this is a fringe playoff team, not this year, but for next year,
Hmm.
because really you only have to win around 80 games. And I think this team is capable of getting close to 80 this year. They got a lot of young stars, CJ Abrams. They don't even have their best prospect up yet, and then Joe Woods, who I watched personally in Delaware while he played for the Wilmington Blue Rocks, and I believe he batted almost, I think, over 500 in his time there, and he played for like I think half of the year, like 3 months in single A. So they have a really good team. They have a lot of good pitching, good young left-handed pitching, and then I also think it's a callback to everyone's going to say it every series we see, but I think there are truth to Mookie Betts' words where it's like,
Oh yeah,
hey,
it definitely
so
is.
many teams are going to play up to what they want to be. Jake
Mhm.
Irvin, I'm just looking at his advanced, stats. He had 3,000 RPM on his fastball, which is pretty much
Right,
crazy stuff. That's like Trevor Bauer, Pine Tar, like
right.
2020 COVID season. unheard of in today's game right now. So obviously something's going on.
Their pitchers really surprised me, on what they did and how they pitched, pretty well. Abram, impressive, impressive shortstop, man. He is just amazing. He can hit the ball, he can run. He is the full package. He's not only going to give the Dodgers fits, he's going to give everybody fits that he plays with. And the Dodgers are lucky, that Ruiz was not playing. That he was sick and that he didn't travel with the team, because every time he plays the Dodgers, he comes out and he makes it known. You should have kept me. I was your catcher. I'm people that know me and that have known me for a while. I was a big Keibert Ruiz fan when he was in the minors, and I was really really bummed out when the Dodgers let him go. And he's like, I'm going to hit the ball and I'm going to hit a home run and I'm going to put it in play and I'm going to throw players out. He's a good catcher. And but yeah, I was impressed with the Washington team. And like you were saying, it seems like every team is going to be playing, the Dodgers to the best of their ability, and they got to come out and bring it every single game. If they're not, then they're not going to win a series. They may win 2 out of 3, or 3 out of 4, or go 2-2. It's still a winning season. And I kind of get it, just like you were saying. I understand that. Do you want to go all the way right now, and burn everybody out? Because look what happened last year. Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman were chasing records and had all this hype on them. And then when it came down to September, October, where were they? They were so burnt out by trying to, get 56 home runs or whatever it was, the stats they were chasing, and they had nothing for the playoffs, nothing.
Yeah.
So,
well, moving on from the National Series, let's kind of end it on a high note. Obviously, the Mets come into town a little bit hotter. They started out 0-5. They ended up going 10-3 over their last 13. Come to Dodger Stadium, take the first 2 games of the series. But let's talk about some, highlights. Let's talk about that game 3. It seemed like everything came together. The starting rotation with Tyler Glasnow going 8 shutout innings, 10 strikeouts. The bullpen locking it down that last inning. And then the offense kind of getting some, contributions from every single person. It started off with Ohtani. Andy Pajes got his first major league home run.
yeah.
What were your takeaways from, Snow? It seemed like the offense was due for an explosion. So how confident are you that they can take this and going forward?
My takeaways from what was that Sunday's game? This is the Dodgers that the fans are looking for. This is the team that everybody's saying, okay, this is our team. Oh, here they are. They finally showed up to play and show to everybody, this is who we are. That was my big takeaway. It was just like, yeah, they finally came in and they started hitting. Everybody but one. Altman was Altman. He still did not get a hit. He struck out, and he was chasing balls, and he's struggling, pretty heavily. But it was great to see everybody else contribute. What Tyler Glasnow did was say, okay, offense, jump on my back, because I'm going to sit here and throw the ball, and I'm going to throw it well, and I'm going to keep it a zero inning, through 8 innings. Do something. And they did.
Yeah.
They responded. I think Tyler Glasnow set the pace for that team that day in the first inning and the second inning, and the Dodgers felt it, and they're like going, yeah, we're going to get behind this guy, and we're going to play, and we're going to hit, and we're going to show, who we really are. And that's a contribution by, Tyler Glasnow. And that's what an ace pitcher is supposed to do. He's supposed to come in here and right the ship and say, hey man, we've been on a 3-game losing streak. Not with me. We're winning today.
Yeah.
And that's
I
exactly
definitely
what we did.
think they needed the start Tyler Glasnow gave them.
Mhm.
Fabian Ardaya from The Athletic put out an article this morning kind of highlighting some of the 3 big, glaring issues that's facing the Dodgers. And the biggest for me was, the bullpen being overworked. They
Yes.
lead Major League Baseball in innings pitched, well over 100, which is way more than the next best team. and it's showing. I think a lot of the stats from the bullpen are inflated just because of the amount of innings that they are being forced to pitch. And people may disagree with it. They're saying, "Oh, well, it's April. Glass now with his injury history doesn't need to be going 8 innings." Well, he only threw 100 pitches, which in today's game, seems like a lot, but he stated time and time again that his injury history, that's a thing of the past, and the Dodgers are getting him right now in his prime. And I'm on the East Coast with a lot of Phillies fans, and my friend Jake, who's a huge Phillies fan, he compared it to one guy who had a lot of bad injury history and the trajectory that Tyler Glasnow is on right now. That's Zach Wheeler. Zach Wheeler was a guy who made starts
Yeah.
for the Mets, literally could fall apart on the mound, had the stuff, but never could just stay healthy. And now he's in Philadelphia, fully healthy, thriving in the Cy Young conversation for the past 3 years. Tyler Glasnow seems to kind of be on that trajectory as well. And my other takeaway is that I hope Andy Pages can take this game and, propel himself to a starting spot. I wrote an article on DodgersBeat.com. Be sure to check that out, kind of saying, hey, Dodgers are letting Andy Pages get, take this. If he wants to win a spot and he plays well, he can force their hand that he can stay on this 26-man roster, because you mentioned James Outman. He is struggling. Jason Hayward, he's an aging veteran. We don't know how he's going to rebound when he comes back from a stiff back. Those things don't go away. That's going to bother him the rest of his career. That's just the things with age. And Kike Hernandez, Chris Taylor, these are holes in the offense. And if Andy Paz can play elite defense in the outfield and just get on base with some pop, I think I would take that, 9 out of 10 times over a lot of these other names that I just mentioned. So, but going from that, getting ready to wrap it up here. The Dodgers are beginning one of their longest road trips of the year so far. They got 3 against Washington, 3 against Toronto, and then they cap it off at 3 in Arizona. They don't have a single day off. Today, Monday, when we're recording this, was their only off day. So they're kind of flying all around. This is kind of where you start seeing in the baseball season where, these are professionals and they gotta, this is their day. This is their work. They're flying these hours. So kind of your outlook, at least for these 3 series, Washington, Toronto, and Arizona. What are you expecting? What are you looking forward to? Are the Dodgers, going to take what they did, on Sunday and then kind of roll through these, or are they going to get tested a little bit?
Well, I'm going to make the bold prediction, and I'm going to say that they're going to build on what they did on Sunday, and they're going to go 9-0. I'm not going to be surprised if they go 9-0 or 8-1. I think they go on a big run after what Tyler Glasnow did, and I think that sparked the team. Also, I think with Shohei Ohtani's historic home run, 176 home run, is a big boost for them. I think Andy Pages' double and first home run is a big boost for them. I think that the team, that the bottom half of the group, that has been struggling, I think they get a little bit more spark into them. I'm not going to be surprised if Chris Taylor kind of steps it up and and has a good 3 series on the road. And I think Kike Hernandez is going to thrive also. So I think the Dodgers are going to do pretty well. It's not going to surprise me at all.
Yeah.
I'd say if let's go back to reality. I'll say 8-2. Through the series, or not 8-2. I think they win what 7 out of the 9.
Okay. Yeah. Your first prediction, that 9-0, that would shock me. Um, I think they do get the Nationals. I think they play well in Washington. I try
Yeah.
to go to, whether if I'm covering for the page here or if I'm going as a fan, the past like 4 or 5 years that I've came down to DC, they've played really good, and that's battling the elements. And I got to let you guys know, there is no rain on the forecast for these 3 games, so that's kind of new for me here covering games. I think they'll win 2 out of 3 here. I think their biggest matchup's going to be, facing up against Jake Irvin again. We'll see what he has. Maybe the Dodgers take whatever they learned from when they got shut out, kind of taking it into this start.
Yep.
Toronto is a little bit of a toss-up just because we don't get many. Obviously, now we get interleague matchups with everybody. But, playing in Toronto, I think this is the first time in a couple years that the Dodgers have done that. And then going to Canada, all that with the travel arrangements, they could get scuttled, but I think they'll win that series as well. I think the series they actually ultimately lose is in Arizona. I think Arizona, depending on how the pitching lays out, I think if Jordan Montgomery gets a start, I think he's going to ice up this Dodgers team. He had a really good debut for the D-backs the other day against Blake Snell, outdueling him. I think he went like 6 or 7 innings, only 1 run. And it's in Arizona. And the Dodgers, as good as they've been since I've been watching since middle school, they do not play well in Arizona at all. And a lot of our players seem to suffer there. But I don't know, maybe new team, new vibes. Shohei Ohtani, maybe he likes hitting at that ballpark. So it'll be surprising. But I still think Arizona.
Since everybody was saying, yesterday's game was the revenge game. The series against the D-backs may be the revenge series. Of what happened last year. And how they just beat the crap out of them.
That's definitely I would say that's more in the D-backs' mind than anything. I think if they had this series penciled in, they had it penciled in from the get-go, because I think if I was a player on the D-backs, I would have a chip on my shoulder too, because it's like, hey, we obviously know the off season that they had, but we're still here, and we're the defending National League champions. Like, nope, and a lot of people are counting them out, and I still like their club. I like their offense and their pitching. When they're healthy, their 1 through 5 with the lefties they have is very scary, especially in October. So,
definitely, Arizona's got a tough team. I've never, at the beginning of the season, I didn't think that that they were going to slack off in any way. With the addition of Montgomery that's there, it just enhances their team. Even that much more. They're going to be a tough series. Throughout the whole year. And if we meet them in October, it's going to be a tough series, so no doubt in my mind, in regards to that.
Alrighty, well, that'll about do it for this weekly rewind episode. Be sure to, subscribe to the page. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm out here in DC. I'm going to get, a lot of content for the Bleed Lows content. Hopefully we can get to the Bleed Lows bump for some of our players, but that's about it. Thank you, Mike, for coming on, giving us some insight, especially through this past couple of series, the Yamamoto starts and everything. And we'll see you for the next one.
Thanks for having me.
This episode has been brought to you by Bet Online. The game starts here.